Mahlzeit und herzlich willkommen. Das nun folgende Interview mit Fernanda von CRYPTA findet in Kooperation mit Baalphemor.de und Gift und Galle, dem Metal Talk statt. Das Interview ist aufgespalten in zwei Teile. Den ersten Teil findet ihr jeweils auf den Kanälen von Baalphemor.de, auf YouTube und Spotify. Und den zweiten Teil findet ihr entsprechend auf den Kanälen von Gift und Galle, dem Metal Talk. Auch jeweils auf YouTube und den bekannten Podcast-Plattformen. Und nun viel Spaß.
All right. Um, yeah, I am very hyped. Thanks for having us. I would start with welcome everybody out there. Um, and yeah, today we have a very special guest, former bass player and a singer from Nervosa, founder of the Brazilian death metal band who just released a second album. Welcome, Fernanda from CRYPTA. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking and thanks for having me here. It's going to be a great chat. And yeah, I'm doing really, really well. I'm very extremely happy with the that our new album is out. Feedback's been great. So it's definitely a great time for a chat.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a good point. But before I come to the new album, I would be interested in when you learned an instrument. Were you already a metalhead, and did you start with bass guitar? So what comes first?
My dad is a metalhead,
All right.
diehard metalhead. Yeah. He has like a huge CD collection. So since I was a kid, I was used to this metal environment, and my dad contributed a lot on that because heavy metal was a very natural thing for me because it was what was playing all the time at home. And I even remember my dad would record some cassette tapes to me when I was 6, 7 with my favorite picks from what he was listening. So there would be like uh Iron Maiden, Kiss, of course, Axel, Rudy Pell, Warlock, and then Biohazard and Suicidal Tendencies. So it was like this crazy mix, but
Okay,
that's
yeah.
why I was listening to pretty much everything since I was a kid. But and also my dad influenced me when it comes to playing because my dad is a bass player too, and to me it was a natural choice. Like I of course, when listening to metal, I think most of us at least once think of maybe I would love to try and learn a new instrument, and I did feel that. And to me it
Yeah.
was very natural to see my dad. He didn't have a bass guitar, but he had like an acoustic guitar that he would tune down so the
Yeah.
the the
Yeah.
strings were like floppier and stuff like that, and it sounded more like a bass. And so that's how I started playing because I would see him playing that, and then I was like, okay, I want to try too. And I remember I was like a kid, man, a kid, and I was learning. Like I even remember the first songs. Like I was listening to Kiss a lot when I was like 7, 8, and I would take my dad's acoustic guitar and try to play Heavens on Fire or shout it out loud because it was
Yeah.
beep 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 beep, beep. So yeah, that's basically how I started. And sometimes we would take turns. Like my grandma would have this amazing like leather couch, and my dad always has like some drumsticks at home because he loves air drumming, and I love air
Yeah.
drumming too. And so we would take turns. Sometimes he would play the acoustic guitar, and I would be with the drumsticks on the leather couch. And sometimes it would be opposite thing. I would play blues because it was like super easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Okay.
then my dad would do the drums. So it was a very musical environment. And when it was time to actually start learning, and I think that was like around like 12, 13, I don't know, then yeah, bass guitar was a natural choice. And I think when I was around like 15 or 16, I bought my first bass. I was working already at back then, and I used like some of my first wages to invest in a bass guitar, and which I still have till nowadays. Actually, I gave that
Yeah.
to my dad. I
Oh,
gave that to
really?
my dad. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, hey, dad, here it is. It was a very simple, crappy bass, but like it has
Okay,
some meaning for me. Yeah.
but he must be so incredibly proud of you.
He is
Um,
like my dad is definitely my biggest supporter in music, always been. He always, my dad was our driver and merch guy for the first couple of years. He was the one
all right.
driving us around to every show,
Okay.
and he was the merch guy, and sometimes he would party with the fans more than we did. So he's definitely like, he always says like, I would never be able to be in a band and I would never be able to tour,
Yeah.
but seeing you fulfills, like my dreams.
Oh, right. Yeah, nice one. Yeah, it's actually the same for me. My father was like, he listened to Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin and then Iron Maiden and stuff. So yeah, that's a good one. The natural environment, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
okay, so now you played like 10 years thrash metal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, when the first time I heard of you was a friend of mine. He sent me the video of Kill the Silence, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I was I was flushed. I was, oh my God, this is so heavy. This is so brutal and it's so aggressive. And then I told him, man, it's so good. Imagine she would sing in a death metal band. She would destroy
Oh,
everything.
that's interesting.
So and then yeah, like 4 years ago you started the death metal band. So but the thing is, yeah, 10 years thrash metal, and then you switched to death metal. Why was that?
Mm, Crypto was born as a side project because me and Luana, our drummer, we were still in
Mm-hmm.
Nervosa when we created the band.
Ah, okay.
And yeah, but it was supposed to be like just a side project, like nothing serious at all, because like our agenda was so full with Nervosa. We
Yeah.
didn't even have time for anything else. But the band started because of the situation we were in Nervosa. There were no fights or anything, but it was, things were not as cool as they were before, and we
Mm-hmm.
thought I was not feeling very inspired because of everything, and we thought that having a side project would be beneficial for our current band back then, because we thought, well, maybe if we have like another um a different musical environment, like, and a different creative outlet and a
Yeah.
different band environment, maybe this will refresh things, and then we'll be more motivated in our own band. But still, like, we barely had any time for crypta, and then when it was time for us to quit the band, I had to, like, I knew that was the right thing to do. It was a
Yeah.
good thing that crypta was there already, because it really helped me get going. And the idea of having a death metal project was two. First, because Luana, she was playing with Nervosa with me, but she's always been a death metal drummer.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
playing thrash metal for the first time in Nervosa, but her thing was death metal. And also, that's my favorite genre besides thrash metal. They are my two preferences in metal, thrash and death
Mm-hmm.
metal. And I really didn't want to have a side project where I would play the same thing I'm playing now, Like, I was like, okay, let's do some other thing, because it was a blank page. I could write whatever in there. And the obvious choice was death metal because of these two reasons, just to make
Yeah,
it
okay.
different from my current band, and also because like it was what Luana really liked doing.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah, so your band is all female.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is not that often in the metal scene, especially in the extreme scenes. Um, I would say that acceptance should not be a topic anymore. But would you say it's still hard to consist in a, let's say, male-dominated scene, or is it no point anymore?
Uh-huh. I think it's got way better from when I started playing, and something really curious. I've always had all girl bands. Even before Nervosa, I had like 3 or 4 bands. They were all girls. Nothing against
Okay.
you guys, but I think it was something natural. Now I understand why. Like, I just want to feel represented, and
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
want to see more girls playing, and there's a whole ideology now. But back then I was like, well, there's a lot of guys playing. I want to see a lot of girls playing too, and I'll do my part.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I think from when I started playing, like way back there, it's gotten way better. It's definitely a more welcoming, tolerant, respectful scene. If you compare to when I started with Nervosa, it was hostile, man.
Oh, really?
We would get like awful comments, and hate and stuff like that. It was really, really tough. It got easier, but not that easier. So yeah, it's definitely better right now, but there's still a long way to go. The majority of people nowadays definitely respect us women and us all girl bands in the metal scene. It's definitely cooler, but there are still very specific struggles that only women in the metal scene know and have to face, such as on every tour I've done and every tour I still do, at least once a tour, I'm going to be blocked from getting in my own dressing room because they think we're not the band. They think we are with the band. They think
what is it called? A groupie?
Groupies or like the band's girlfriend or whatever. Like, we do get blocked a lot from our own dressing rooms, and then we need to call a guy like the promoter or whoever
no way
to say like, hey, they're the band. I'm like, yeah, it happens a lot. It happened in festivals already with me, so it's definitely something that still happens. And there's always like those guys that wanna come take a picture and then they try to touch your boob or your butt, and I have to, in a very didactic, educational way, say, hey, if it was Kerry King, you wouldn't be doing the same. So please don't do that.
Yeah, just wanted to say you wouldn't grab his balls because he's Kerry King. I mean,
exactly.
So
exactly, you just wouldn't do that. So I respectfully tell them, like, please don't touch my boobs unless if it was a guy, if it was like whoever here, you would touch their boob too. Please don't do that.
Yeah, okay.
So that happens a lot. And also there's like more subtle things, like the kind of requests and pictures we get on our DMs, and this all metalhead girls and like musicians can confirm that we get unsolicited dick pics. We get requests like, hey, I want to see you playing like barefoot so I can watch your feet and stuff like that, like creepy stuff like that. We do get a lot, all of us girls. And also that are something that's even more subtle, which is like there's still this competition mentality when it comes to girls in the metal scene, not from the girls, but from the guys. There's this thing where, like, I remember when I left Nervosa, I noticed that I would be tagged in like weekly posts, like, who is the best, Fernanda or Diva? Who is the best like on a weekly basis? And I'll ask you, what was the last time you saw that happening with like guys bands?
Yeah, but they were not talking about your voice. They were talking about like your bodies or
voice, body, beauty, whatever. But there was always like some sort of competition, and I would see comments like, yeah, Fernanda has a great voice, but Diva is so cute. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? So this kind of thing happens. And also there's like this outfit patrol for girls too. Like I've got comments about CRYPTA like, yeah, I really like their music, but why do they have to wear all those spikes and studs? Says the person who likes Rob Halford. Says the person who likes Kronos and Rob Halford and all those guys who wear all this stuff. Like, there's always this kind of stuff. Like, if we wear too much, we're trying to prove something. If we wear not too much, we're trying to prove something. It's complicated. It's complicated, and it's stuff that specifically girls need to go through. And it's easier now. Not a lot of guys do that, but still a lot of guys do that. So
but at least it got better.
Oh, it got better. I don't want to sound pessimistic. It's just because like I like to share this specific stuff we go through. But in an overall overviewing everything in a general way, it's definitely got better. It's just the minority who do this kind of thing.
Okay, so like everywhere, still some assholes.
Things to learn, and things to learn. Like we've been a patriarchal society for centuries now. It's not going to change from one day to another. That's why I'm very patient with those guys. I'm always trying to educate them, like, hey, this is not cool, and step by step, it's going to get better.
Good to hear that. Okay. So now a few days, the new album has been released. Shades of Sorrow, which is on in the German album charts on place, I think, 23.
Yes.
Yeah. So congratulations that, because even for a metal band, it's I think it's today it's hard, to get in the charts at all. So
exactly,
and then on that high position, that is very great. So I would say, at least by now, everybody should know that CRYPTA is here. Yeah. Are there still people asking you, hey, why did you left Nervosa? Or is it...
Yes, it definitely got better now, way better. Like, people understood, mainly with the second album now, I think it's getting better and better. People understood that we are independent from each other, and mainly that we are two different genres. You can't even compare. Like, it's two different worlds. It's two different worlds. And in two different directions and everything, which is cool, because we're not doing the same thing. We're experimenting our own different universes. And but nowadays people are cooler with like the comparisons, and like putting every girl from those bands in the same cauldron and stuff like that. It's definitely different now. People still do ask, and
but
and I always have to say, like, like, that's the reason why I left, because we needed this to happen. That's all. But people are not bugging me a lot about this anymore, exactly because like both bands are doing well, thank you very much. So I think people are starting to understand.
Okay. What would you say is there? I like, for me, the difference to the new album is that you sound even more, I would say, evil, more aggressive. The first tunes I heard, I was like, oh my God, you were so good at growling. I mean, you weren't bad at the first one, but you know what I mean. No, it was like I don't know how.
Natural evolution.
So there's like a potion on top, and it's
awesome. Thank you.
What is there? Would you say there's any difference, like to the first one, if you compare it?
Yes, they're completely two different albums, in my opinion. And Echoes of the Soul is a more diverse album, because we were a new band. We were still experimenting. We were still trying to find out what was our sound, what was our identity, musical identity, what is CRYPTA. We were still trying to figure it out by experimenting many different elements in extreme metal. When we had on Echoes of the Soul, we were able to identify what is it that the fans liked and identified CRYPTA with, which is melody together with aggressiveness. And then we kept that and started experimenting on top of that. That's why I think overall this album is more mature, because we kept the essence of the band and experimented from that. We were not completely lost as on the first album. And don't get me wrong, I love Echoes of the Soul, but that's the thing there. And so, overall, I think Shades of Sorrow is a more mature album because of this, and also because we all evolved as musicians, as you noticed. Thank you very much. Because as musicians, I think we're always trying to push ourselves further, in order to offer at least something a little bit newer to our fans. And I'm glad we did that with Shades of Sorrow. And overall, the sound, I think it's definitely darker, gloomier, more emotional, I would say. And that's because on the first album, we were exploring more like melodic, uh, more epic melodies. And when it comes to the second album, the melodies is still there, but they're darker. And that's because like Sonia, our previous guitarist, she liked those epic melodies and stuff like that. And I learned how to like melodies because like I'm more like raw, aggressive, like on my taste for death metal. But I learned with CRYPTA how to appreciate a good melody, a good melodic part. And then I found out that what the kind of melody I like in death metal are the dark, creepy melodies. So that's why this album is darker. And also Taina, our guitarist, it was her first album writing. She wrote the album with me when it comes to melodies. And she also likes this darker melody. So that was a good mix. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to say that it's more or less the same that you said already. That there are melodies, but it's not like melodic death metal.
Yeah, definitely not.
It's still very dark and aggressive. Yeah, but as you said, so that's all I wanted to add.
And also lyrically, the both albums are completely different. First album, I was exploring a little bit of everything, so there was like stuff related to psychology, and there were still protest songs from my thrash metal ears, like I couldn't help it. And also some songs about, I'll have to interrupt for 1 minute.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
My food arrived. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Weiter geht es mit Teil 2 bei den Kollegen von Gift und Galle.